Okay. So the control system, when the house was set up back at the Columbus Zoo, control system was reassembled and worked there. But then the house was disassembled from the zoo and was awaiting the imagination of Bill and tenacity of Bill to get it reassembled here. And there, so some time passed, and assembling it here required different codes and regulations. So when we reassembled it, I came in and reconnected all of the controls in the house. Upon electrical inspection, and because this house splits into 3 sections, there's a bunch of junction boxes in the ceiling, so above the ceiling. And when the inspector came in, he said, rightfully so, understandably so, that to have a junction box in the ceiling, you have to have access to that junction box. And because we had so many junction boxes up in the ceiling for all this low voltage wiring for the control system, we basically would have ended up with access panels like probably between 6 or 7 above my head and another 4 on the other side. It really would have, in my opinion, hurt the aesthetics of the building. Okay, so with Bill's permission and resources, we had the low voltage wiring rerun, just home run. So this is new wiring, so that there was no breaks in the wiring between units, because this home's not going anywhere ever again. So we didn't care. We didn't care that we couldn't pull it apart again, and that satisfied the inspector. But what we haven't done yet is we haven't terminated the ends of those wires yet. They're up in the ceiling, ready to be terminated. And why I want to start a discussion about that is that we're going. The next step is to hook up those wires and do that, and then hook them up to the brains of the operation, which is the controller in a cabinet over here. And we can do that. We could connect it up to that existing controller. That controller is now 10 years old, about 10 years old, and it was donated and tremendous contribution by Weibel Buildings Energy Systems, but it is a proprietary system. If we hook it up and we need to work on it, we can work on it, but we can't do everything to rejuvenate it. And I suspect what will happen is we're going to plug it in, we'll get it going, and it'll probably work, but there's going to be a bunch of things that we want changed because this house isn't a house anymore, it's a lab. And there's going to be a bunch of controls logic that we want to change, and we're probably going to want, different sensors and to call and change the graphics pages and things like that to more appropriately fit the new structure. Okay, so knowing we have to make those changes, and we know it's 10 years old, and we know that only really Weibel Energy Services can service it, do we want to take this opportunity to potentially update it and do a 2019 or 18 version technology and all the bells and whistles that come with that? Because I think from a resources standpoint and a time, whether it be we have to pay, I don't know yet if we can convince Bill and Logix to continue to support and donate time. I suspect they might do some, probably not everything we want. So either we have to pay for some service hours or pay for some upgrades on the software, things like that. I suspect that we could do what we really want to do. Basically, I think of it this way: we could get this car back working and ready, and then jump to where we really want to be, or we could skip the step of fixing the car and go straight to the new car. And I think you could probably spend the same amount of time and energy and money to go straight to the new car and skip that step. And that's why I haven't spent the time to connect all the wires up and do all the commission. So that's the state of the system, is that it's ready to be connected. And if that's what the team decides to do is your instruction, your decision. We can do that. We can talk about how we can get some, do some volunteering. I'll do some volunteering to get it all hooked up. Or we can talk about, and this is kind of where I come in to my pitch standpoint, is that we could turn this into a student project. We could involve students in this process where we could explain everything that's in the building, and we can have them help us envision what the new system would look like and get them involved in that decision. And I don't know if this really probably isn't a classroom activity, but it could be like a capstone. I don't know what kind of things. It could be a really good capstone project, or if there's an environmental student group, or a electronic. I know you guys have a robotics team and you have clubs, but if there's a group that is interested in computer programming, this could be a really good pet project where you get hands-on experience on it. And why I think, so now I'm going to step into at the very least, no matter what happens, the opportunity is too good, in my opinion, to not involve some students in the reconnecting and commissioning and regenerating the system. Like, I could come in here on my time and volunteer and turn on the radio and listen to a podcast and reconnect the system. Or I could have 4 or 5 high school students out here doing it with me. It's going to take me the same amount of time. They're going to learn some stuff, and I'm going to feel better than just being out here alone doing it, right? Just from a practical standpoint, I think there would be a wasted opportunity to not see if we can do something. Okay, so that's like base level what I would like to be a part of seeing do. Advanced is Plug Smart. So now we're talking kind of like advanced level idea pitch. Plug Smart is in the building automation business. So we compete against, I didn't work for Plug Smart. I was a college student, right? This house launched my career. I learned what I wanted to do and have done for the last 9 years or so, 8 years. We do building automation systems as part of our job. We have a controls team. We don't, we have a different system than what Building Logics has, but either way, we have experience in working with the system. I've learned a lot about these systems. We are working with Ohio Northern University on their new engineering building. So we're building a new engineering building, and we're doing the controls on that system. As part of that, we are building a building automation lab in the Department of Engineering at Ohio Northern. So this will be a learning lab for building controls for students to get hands-on activity. I think there's an opportunity to do some connections between that lab and students that want to explore engineering at Worthington. I think there would be a lot of interest on ONU's part, because they are a small college in Ohio. They care a lot about recruiting and connecting with students early and putting ONU on the radar. And controls job, just to be frank, being a controls engineer is a really good vocation. Okay, controls techs or controls engineers, like a junior engineer, make $75,000 out of school. You can make up to $120,000 if you're a really good senior controls engineer. It's a very good vocation. It's just really specialty, and people don't know. The best school in this Midwest, maybe a 3 or 4 state area. There's a couple, but it's Ferris State up in Michigan. Ferris State has a really good technical HVAC program. They do a lot of associates, but they also do some engineering, like transfers. Well, they'll transfer to Michigan State or something else to get your 4-year degree. But they get a lot of hands-on experience. A lot of the controls techs in the Midwest come through Ferris State. I think there's an opportunity to create a similar level of kind of institutional expertise and industry funnel of students, where you could get students interested in building automation at New Albany. They could then know that Ohio Northern is someplace they could further that passion, really be interested and get a full 4-year engineering degree, and probably mechanical engineering, and then pick, if they're still interested, building automation is kind of their specialty, and that this is a very understaffed expertise across the country. There's always a lot of demand for controls engineers, because it's a mix between, you have to understand, we find mostly, because it's not like high level computer science type programming. It's not, when you do a building automation system, you're not starting from scratch and coding the next app. You're taking programming language and blocks of programming language and combining it. So you really have to have the mechanical expertise, because every mechanical system in every building is different. So what you're basically doing is taking the building that you're working on, their mechanical systems, and then you're applying a computer program or a framework for a computer program and putting it on top of it. And so you have to be base level interest and expertise on programming and all the stuff, but you really have to know your HVAC systems and how those work together, and what would make them the most efficient way to operate them. So we see mostly some EEs and electrical engineers, but mostly MEs that have an interest in working with control systems. And it's a nice balance from a profession standpoint. There's a lot of desk work where you're actually doing the nuts and bolts programming, but there's a lot of field work. It's a pretty good mix of getting out in the field and working on the system, commissioning the systems you put in, and things like that. So for folks that, some mechanical engineering jobs, they're all desk jobs, right? You're sitting at your desk, drawing system design, and that's it. Some people like that. Some people want a field job, and they're mechanical engineers where it's only field, right? You're in the field engineer all the time. This is the controls engineers is kind of a nice mix, because in most controls businesses, it's the same engineer that does the programming that then goes and does the field startup. You kind of live with one project through. So I think there's this unique opportunity, and I know that PlugSmart would be interested in helping facilitate this kind of connection. I think it's just good business for us. It's good for the industry in general. So I think there's a pretty cool opportunity.